Hello, welcome to the Research Method course. Our lecture for today is Chapter 9, Collecting Primary Data Through Observation. From this lecture, we expect to have some learning outcomes, to understand the role of the observation that plays as in the data collection according to our research onion, to identify the two types of observation for the researcher to be participant observation or structured observation. Moreover, the approach for the data collection and analysis for both participant observation and structured observation. Moreover, there is some constraints, some threats to validity and reliability faced by these types of observation. So, in our course, in our research method, we are going more forward. Now we are at the center, at the heart of the research onion in the data collection and data analysis as the techniques that we need to apply after we determined the previous procedures. So let's have a look on the observation as a data collection method. So what's the observation? It involved systematic observation, recording, documenting, description analysis, and interpretation of people's behavior. So to learn and understand more about the people behavior, especially in the advancement of IT technology, and it's easy now to have more recording, more monitoring, more technology that enables you to make a good observation. So that depends on the researcher himself. He will conceal his identity, or to reveal his identity, he will be close, take part in the activity, or just an observer, to be complete participant, or just complete observer, or to play together, participant as observer, or observer as participants, and take in consideration some ethical issue that may affect your research. The main two types of observation emphasizes to be participant, emphasizes the discovery of meaning, phenomenetic. To this phenomena to be hermeneutic, interpretation to the attached to the action in the qualitative research, while the other one, structured observation, concerned with the frequency of action, the number of times that this action occurred during the day, during 1 hour, in order to more understand some phenomena. Participant observation, the definition to understand this one, where the researcher attempt to participate fully in the lives and action of the subject. He will be very close. He will be part of what he's looking for, enabling them to not merely observe what's happening, but also to feel it. Choice of participant observer rule, determining factors. What's the purpose? What's the aim of the research and the time available, because it will be time consuming for some extent. Degree of suitability felt by the researcher. Organizational access, will have the access to reach some sources, some sites, to make observation and to collect information. And as we mentioned, the ethical consideration, especially if the researcher didn't reveal his identity. Moreover, points to consider in the data collection and analysis, threats to validity. If you are part of the organization or not part of the organization, how you access the information, the perspective of the subject, not the researcher himself, and it's okay to know little bit about the advantage and disadvantage of this one. So advantage and disadvantage of participant observation. It's good at explaining what's going on in particular social situation. While, as we mentioned, it's time as a disadvantage, it's time consuming. It can pose difficult ethical dilemmas for the researcher if he didn't reveal his identity, and other some advantages to be considered in against some disadvantages. So it's particularly useful for researcher working within their own organization. If you are an employee in such organization, so it's okay to spend as much time as you need. Otherwise, it will be time consuming. And the participant observer rule is very demanding one, to which one not all researcher will be suited also. Access to organization, if you are not employee, you are not part of the organization, it will not be easy. Data recording is often very difficult for the researcher. Moreover, for the structured observation, it's systematic and aims to establish straightforward facts. Structured observation, very important part of the some managerial work for organizing, controlling, and to conduct some managerial work, or to reveal some things about the black box of the managerial work. So the widespread of the internet and the technology facilitate the work of the observation, the advantage and disadvantage also to be taken in the consideration. So data collection analysis, choosing off-the-shelf coding schedule, or to do it inside the organization, to design your own coding schedule, combining both type of schedule, use simple manual or complex computer methods for analysis of the structured observation, and to be aware of some threats to validity and reliability of structured observation for the subject error, for the perceived subject, time error, and observer effects, and strategies to overcome the habituation and minimal interaction in this regards. So we talked about the participant observation as a summary, as it used in a wide range of social science, political science in general. Participant observation adopting a number of potential rules and difference according to your research question, your objectives, and the way that you want to analyze your data. Let's move to collecting primary data using interviews. So semi-structured or in-depth or grouped interviews. An interview is a purposeful discussion between two or more people. The interviews can help to gather valid and reliable data that are relevant to research question and objectives. Sometimes the questionnaire is not enough. You need to support some idea or some finding by the interviews, or to start from the interviews in order to be able to build good questionnaire that cover your research question. We have the different forms of interviews to be standardized or non-standardized, one-to-one or one-to-many, and we can use the technology that facilitate our interview. The types, the first one, the structured. So you have already predetermined questions, and you need to have the answer. You follow from one answer to another answer, the sequence of the questions and the answer. You have restrictions for yourself over what type of question and what to cover with the interviewer. While the semi-structured interviewer, we have a list of a question to be covered, and may you skip some question or go to the last question and refer to some question in the middle of your list. So you didn't follow the same as structured interviews. So that means there is flexibility in doing such structured interview. Depends on the flow of the information or the conversation, to have systematic conversation, to make it logic, not like an exam, to have some live conversation with your interviewees. Unstructured interview are informal, so most of the time it's in depth. You need to have general idea, then to move to more specific details. There is no predetermined list of questions. You can start with some open questions, and depends on the flow of information or the progress of the conversation, you will bring more and more questions to be aware or fully informed about the situation. In comparison, the participant or respondent in the interview directs the interview, and the interviewee respond to the question of the researcher. Sometimes the participant will like to look more informative than the researcher, or may criticize the way of the research, or not satisfied. That will hinder the interview and may lead it to be away from the research question and objectives. Interview may be conducted one-to-one basis between you and a single participant, face-to-face, using telephone, internet, chatting, or intranet, to use any means or the way to reach the information. There may be other situations where you conduct a number of participants to explore an aspect of your research through a group of discussion that you facilitate. May you have more than one participant, and you work like organizing for the interview, and to exchange information, and sometimes to build from the idea of one participant to ask other participant to make a comment, or if he agree, disagree, or support this idea, or have something additional to add to that idea. Semi-structured or in-depth interviews may also be used as a part of mixed method, to use more than one techniques in the research to validate finding from a questionnaire. As you're looking for the cause and effects, you look for the nature of the relation between two or more variables, the nature of the relation, the direction of the relation, the causality of the relation between these variables. So in exploratory research study, qualitative, in-depth interview can be very helpful to find out what's happening, to understand, to have a new insight. Semi-structured interview may be used in relation to exploratory study, while in descriptive studies that we use structured interviews in order to get specific question and specific answer. In the other hand, for the quantitative study, in explanatory study, semi-structured interviews can be used to understand, as we mentioned, the relation between variables, and some information that or finding in the descriptive study can be enhanced our information, our understanding by using this type of interviews. And let's have a look on this table when we can use structured, semi-structured, or unstructured, more frequent to text, or less frequent in the exploratory, descriptive, and explanatory also. Non-standardized qualitative interviews, the purpose, the aim of your research, the significance of establishing personal contact in order to be able to start your interview and to gain a good access to the organization, the nature of the data collection question also, time required, and completeness of the process. Issue also to consider, to take in consideration the reliability of your interview and information, forms of bias for the researcher or the subject, the validity of your finding, and it could be generalized or not. The 5 B's, which is very important for the researcher before starting the interviews. Prior planning prevents poor performance. To be always ready and informative. Associated issue also, interviews level of knowledge, to have full knowledge, good command of the subject that you are have the research on. The level of information supplied to interviewees. Sometimes it's good to give a list of the question or to give an idea for the interviewees before starting the interview, to let them be aware of what type of the discussion, what's the main subject. Maybe they need to prepare some information. They have some documents in the organization. It will be very useful to get access to some information that support your research. Creating an interview guide and the suitability of the location to choose not a crowded, out of noise location also. And the appearance of the researcher, the dress code to respect the organization, to be more to some extent officially. Shaping the interview to start with introduction, with opening comments, to let the interview be aware of why you are doing this type of research, what the aim of the interview, why do you need information from these participants, and the clarity and reducing bias from the approach of the questions, not canalization in the question, or use of a critical incidence techniques also, because not always the technology works. Sometimes your recording machine will be out of working. Moreover, the interviewer behavior, verbal and non-verbal discussion, speech, body language, attentive listening skill, be able to understand directly what did your participants respond to you, and to test your understanding. Are you really well understand the answers that given by the participants or not? And the data recording, not just the tape recording. You need to have some notes to write some information in order when you listen to the recording, you can have more clarification about the information that you have. And to consider the cultural differences and bias when you're conducting research also. Interviewing competencies, several areas where you need to develop and demonstrate your ability and qualification to conduct semi-structures and in-depth interview, to focus on the opening of the interview, to encourage people to participate in the interview with appropriate language, clear language, and the way of you asking your questions, and how to listen to make the dialogue with your participants, and to summarize your understanding and recording and dealing with difficult participants. Some people, they are unwilling to participate. They will show that they are not much interested in your research topic, or they may criticize, what will you find after doing this research? Why you are wasting your time? Or some people may be unwilling to cooperate with you, so you need to be diplomatic and to go over this type of problems. And to check some books in your book in order to understand, to see that if you are really prepared to conduct the interview. What type of question you will use also in your interview, open question, general question, or probing question to start from general, open, and then looking for specific information, or just directly specific and closed questions that will not have more or much or wide information, just limited and specific information. What's the open question? So it will give let the participant free to talk about the subject matter that you are asking about, maybe enhance your knowledge about the subjects. An open question to start with or include, what do you think about? How do you feel about this system? Or why do we need to apply this type of system in our organization? On the other hand, the probing questions to explore responses that are significant to the research topic. Open question, then request more specific information, and the specific from the name and the disclose. It's clear and short questions. They can be used to obtain specific information to confirm a fact or opinion. And here is a comparison, disadvantage and advantage of audio recording interviews. The advantage that you document your interview. It allows the interviewer to concentrate on the questioning and listening, not to be busy with writing. On the other hand, some people, they will feel unrelaxed while you are recording. They maybe consider it as official or something, if they said, may be used as a record against them. So it's good for the researcher, but it's disadvantage for the participants, and it's possible for some technical problem also. And we discussed about dealing with difficulties. Maybe the participant unwilling to cooperate, will not give much information, or sometimes he will control the interview instead of the researcher. He will start talking much about his organization and about some feel proud of his work. So how to stop him and to return back to the main subjects is sometimes it's not easy. Managing resources, the logistic support, and the time available to conduct your research to have this type of interview, and obtaining participant permission for interview records. You will ask him that this interview will be recorded if he agrees or not. So otherwise you need to write and jot information. Additional forms of the interviews, group interviews, maybe 3 person, 6, 9, 12, to the extent that the researcher, the interviewer can control and facilitate the situation, control the situation, and they can start the discussion and build from one idea on the other idea. Or just focus a group. You need to interview some specialized people in the field of IT, human resource management. You are not targeting all the employee. You need focus a group that they can give you more specific information. Some interviews, we can use technology, telephone, internet, intranet, chatting to collect your information. And this is the electronics, email, internet forms, chat room, a lot of advancement in the technology that enable you to have more, not face-to-face or directly interviews. It will be virtually. This is that we have about collecting information from observation to interview. And next lecture, we hope will cover the questionnaire in order to be able to finalize our research topic. Thank you very much for listening.